Okay, on to photosynthesis. Now, if you were to watch an animation or video about photosynthesis online, or if you look on different websites, you're going to see that it's much more complex than what we're going to deal with this year. This year, we're just going to look at an introduction to photosynthesis, so you have an idea what is involved. Photosynthesis, you can think of as breaking the word in two. So we have photo and we have synthesis. It's really two stages, and they kind of complement each other. So the products of one part are going to help run the other part. The first stage you can think of as the photo stage. It's also known as the light dependent or light reactions. This is a set of reactions that occurs on the thylakoid membranes of the chloroplast. So we already knew before that photosynthesis takes place in the chloroplast. Now we're learning more about what actually takes place inside. Where is what happening? We've also talked about chlorophyll, that there's chlorophyll inside the chloroplast, which make it appear green. So the chlorophyll is found in what they call photosystems, and those are just little regions in the thylakoid membranes that have a bunch of different centers in order to absorb or gather or catch, trap the light energy from the sun. That light energy is what is going to be used to convert to ATP. So in the reactions that take place, ATP is produced. So we get ATP. It also results in the production of something called NADPH. And we'll not really get into the details of it this year, but suffice to know that it is required in order for the synthesis side of the reactions to take place. The first part, so the photostage, requires light. So one of the reactants is going to be light energy. It also requires water, and it produces ATP and oxygen. Okay, so if you think about, later on we're going to talk about the chemical equation or the balance equation for photosynthesis and where the different things are coming from, where are they used up. Keep those in mind. The second stage is the synthesis stage. So synthesis means making something. And they're also called the light independent or dark reactions. They also are called Calvin cycle. So these are all different names that you will see or come across, and they all refer to the synthesis stage of photosynthesis. This set of reactions takes place in the stroma of the chloroplast. So the stroma is, remember, the liquid part inside of the chloroplast. In this case, carbon is going to be fixed or stored into the chemical bonds in glucose. So ATP is going to be used up, the ATP that was given from the light reactions, in order that carbon dioxide that the plant takes in is fixed or kind of stuck into so that it can't escape the bonds of glucose. It can proceed in the dark, but will only happen until all the ATP has been used up. So this side of things can be happening at nighttime, but it'll only take place until all the ATP stores have been used up. Requires ATP and carbon dioxide. So this is where the carbon dioxide is used up. It is the part of photosynthesis that actually produces the glucose. And in order to keep all of the reactions going, the two cycles, so the photo stage or the light reactions and the dark reactions, kind of recycle the NADPH and NAD plus. So NADPH is produced by the light reactions. It's used by the Calvin cycle or dark reactions, and then it gives back NADP plus so that the light reactions can take it and convert it to NADPH. We'll see that a little bit easier when we look at another graphic in a couple of slides. So once we look at these a little more, we're going to come back to the equation. We're going to talk about where these different things are being used up or produced. Actually, we could probably do it now, and then I'll bring up the other slide and show you how easy it is when you look at the pictures to be able to see where these things are being used up and being produced. So, carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is a reactant, so we want to know where is the carbon dioxide actually being used up. Is it in the photo stage or the synthesis stage? So the light reactions or the dark? So if you look, carbon dioxide is used up in the synthesis stage, the dark reactions. Okay, so it is required for the dark reactions. Water, if you look, water is going to be split in the light reactions, and when it's split, it's going to yield the oxygen. So this one is required for the photo or light-dependent reactions. Energy from the sun, well, it's going to be harvested at the very beginning in the light reactions. C6H12O6 is glucose, and glucose is produced in synthesis reactions. Okay, and like we said, the water is going to be split at the very beginning of the light reactions. When it's split, oxygen is going to be given off. So, oxygen is given off in the light reactions. Okay, so take a look a little closer at the chloroplast. We've seen it when we were labeling the organelles and talking about what they do. Again, it's the site of photosynthesis. It has a double membrane, so it's a double membrane bound. Let's get my little line here. It has a double membrane. It's found in photosynthetic organisms. It contains the thylakoid discs, and the stack of them is called a granum. Okay, and the stroma is the liquid part that surrounds the thylakoid membranes. It's the discs that we said that have chlorophyll molecules in clusters called photosystems, and their job is to harvest the light from the sun. The disc membranes are studded with enzymes, and these enzymes and proteins are going to be used for the different reactions of the light reactions. The stroma is going to have enzymes for the synthesis reactions. Okay. So anything that's needed for the fixing of carbon dioxide into glucose, they'll be found in the stroma. This is a handout that you will be getting in order to practice labeling the chloroplast. Okay, but I guess we could do that right now. Oops. So this line here is pointing to the outer membrane. I'll move them after. This one is pointing to the inner membrane, since there are two. This one is a thylakoid disc or thylakoid membrane. This is a stack of thylakoids, so it's called a granum. And this is the intermembrane space. And this isn't really pointing to the yellow thing, but more to the fluid inside, so it would be the stroma. Okay, so it bathes the thylakoid discs and it has the enzymes for the synthesis reactions. This diagram, I will be giving pretty well all of it to you on your test. So the important thing about this is for you to be able to understand it and read it. Okay, so I'm gonna get, what should I get? Let's try, I think a red pen will show up, so hopefully you can all see the red. So this is showing a stack of thylakoid membranes, and just by looking at it, you can see that the, the photosystems are found in the membranes. They're embedded in the membrane, so that means the chlorophyll is there, and they're going to trap the light. So all the arrows that are going into the system are things that are going to be used up. So light is required, and also water is required. Okay, so this is where water is going to be a reactant in the light reactions. So the light reactions occur on the thylakoid membranes. Anything leaving are things that are produced. So big one that's leaving here is the oxygen. Okay, so water is going to be split and oxygen is going to be released during the light reactions. Two other things are going to be produced. One is ATP and the other is NADPH. And they are needed in order to run the Calvin cycle or the dark reactions. Okay, so the synthesis stage. These are not on the thylakoid membranes, this cycle. Okay, it's a cycle because the starting material, RUBP, which is ribulose bisphosphate, a sugar phosphate, it is going to be recycled each time, and then carbon dioxide will be added to it. So the arrows going into the system again are showing that ATP and NADPH are needed. Starts with ribulose bisphosphate. Carbon dioxide is going to be fixed onto the ribulose bisphosphate and converted into other chemicals. Okay, so carbon dioxide is required. It's a reactant. What's going to leave? Let's see. Right here, the G3P is a 3-carbon sugar, and they are going to leave to make a glucose molecule. Glucoses will then be sent to be stored as starch or converted to other sugars. The cycle has to continue, so one of the G3P molecules will be used there, the other will keep on going and be recycled. Okay? We're not going to get into the nitty-gritty of the reactions that happen, but you can expect to see it if you're going into university or college biology. Other things that are coming off are ADP and phosphate. So that's because the ATP was used up, giving off or recycling ADP and phosphate. The other is NADP+. So these two things are going to be used in the light reactions in order to make the ATP and NADPH. So they work together, the light reactions and the dark reactions. The light reactions produce certain things that are used for the dark reactions. The dark reactions recycle the things that are needed for the light reactions. The overall equation is we need energy from the sun, water, and carbon dioxide all go in to make glucose and oxygen. Oxygen will be released. There are animations that you can watch. I would recommend you watch them in the order that they're listed on the website, and I'll show them to you in class. But the first one is kind of an overview of what's happening. The second one gets a little bit in more detail. It shows this actually running. And then the third one is a close-up, which shows more in more detail than we're probably going to need to know. Okay, so that's photosynthesis.